All right, everybody.
Hey,
What's going on? How much?
welcome.
How much has your blood pressure increased today or this morning? The very first thing happened to me this morning is I woke up to the notification from Mike Slater's show here, and he said something like, "It's crazy that Biden's going to win with just exactly 270." And I said, "What?
Right.
Yeah. What are we talking about here?"
Yeah.
Into it, dug into it, learned about this boatload of ballots discovered, up in Wisconsin, 96
Michigan.
or Michigan, 96% for Biden, and you're looking at yourself and you're going, "What is the deal? Why?" And we already had some suspect right through the night. We're looking there going, "Now, why is Fox News, making this call?"
Right.
Why are they not making a call for Georgia?
Right.
They out of necessity had to make a call for Florida. It seemed like that was the only concession they were willing to make when all the data was pointing in that direction.
Right.
And we were barely able to stay awake until we got to Trump, making an announcement. There was not a victory speech in any way, but it was like, "Hey, we're looking good and we're seeing the trends and we're feeling good and let's see what happens here." And then, Arizona, we're going, okay, so why are they calling this so early and why are they stopping talking? And it was starting to feel like a strange behavior where you just didn't, we weren't going to get the Young Turks on record going, meltdown.
Right.
We weren't going to get this experience of watching the concession. In fact, we were going to get a narrative shoved down our throats for the opposite direction.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think that, you have to look into, put all the dots together and figure out what was going on. Right. I mean, it's
right
for Fox News to jump on board, call Arizona early, call Virginia early, to watch Steyerwalt defend why Virginia was out of play, but Florida wasn't, when Florida literally had 50,000 votes left with a 300,000 vote difference. And he's like, "Oh, there's still a chance." No, there's not, Chris. So, and so you have to look at what they're, what they're doing now, right? You have Steyerwalt on, who's a never Trumper. You have that Minchin guy or whatever, who's a former Clinton lackey.
Right.
You just look at their shift to the left. They're basically AP News now. They're AP, right? So they'll put out some stuff, and some of their commentary is conservative, but they're left wing now. I mean, they've moved left of center. And so, most of the night last night, as I was watching, I was watching Newsmax or Bannon's War Room and America's Voice, because Fox News doesn't speak to a lot of conservatives anymore. If you go on their Twitter page today, Brett Baer had tweeted out, the rankings of who had the most viewers, and Fox News by far was like 13.6 million. They were almost double what their second close competitor was. But if you read the tweets underneath that, man, I mean, their viewership is going to tank. Right.
Oh,
sure. And they sold themselves out last night. And so you now see that they're just one of the,
they're too left for us and they're too right for the
left.
For libs.
Right.
So, they're going to have an audience of nil.
But I think that, again, just jumping into, kind of looking at overall, the data, we were talking about this offline, is that you had 70, Biden right now is at 72 million votes. So again, if you look, and Trump is about 2.5 million behind that, he's right at 72 or 70 million as well. So if you really think about it, I mean, Biden couldn't get 12. I said this comment before. Biden couldn't get 12 people to show up at a rally in a field as big as Rhode Island.
Right.
And yet you're going to tell me 72 million people that went out to vote for him. I'd say 10 million of those people went to vote for him. Then 62 million hate Trump so bad that that's all they would vote for. Right. And that's a reflection of us. It's not a reflection of Donald Trump. It's a reflection of who we have become as a people.
Right.
Because
the
mob mentality. But what Trump had been doing, and again, disregard his tweets, disregard the things that he says. You didn't hire him to be a pastor, right? He's not supposed to comfort you and be your psychiatrist.
No.
You hire him as a chief executive officer to get things done.
Yep.
So he got things done. He made things better for sitting around the kitchen table and wondering, like, okay, we've got food in the pantry. I've got a good job. Everything seems stable. We can go on a vacation. We can do this. We can do that. And now it's a reflection of who we are, that we've allowed the media. That's where the coup is. The coup is not the government.
Right.
Right. The coup is the media. They were complicit in this. from top to bottom, and they've all jumped on board and say, hey, we're gonna play it out for you. And they're going to brainwash us and keep us in the shell game, focusing on the left hand, not seeing what the right hand is doing. And we as a country fell for it. We have fallen for that. Donald Trump is responsible for every single COVID death. That is ludicrous. It's stupid. And
it's very hard to fight a coup attempt.
Right.
Half the country is complicit in carrying water.
Yeah.
That side.
Right.
They would not choose the future that comes 10 years from now when Kamala ends her presidency.
Right. Well, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, I was making a comment today. We're all Bolsheviks now, because what they were intimidation. There was an intimidation factor. They used the people that they needed to get them into power. And once they got swept into power, they disregarded the people they used to get there.
Right.
Right. So again, you vote yourself into communism, you fight your way out. And sure, that's what I mean. You're fighting. You actually war to get out. And you don't want to put a dire take on it, because you want to wake up positive. We're Americans. That's never going to happen here. That's stupid, right? History repeats itself, no matter how good and good natured the quality of the people are. They will eventually succumb to greed and power, and that's what we've allowed ourselves to do. Trump was the only one standing. As much as you may hate him, he was the only one standing in the way of going full tilt communism.
That's right.
To watch all these Biden supporters on name the Twitter feed or name the social media, and you go on there and you watch them, they're like, so you Republicans are against counting every vote. No, that's not what we're against. We're not against that at all. But again, how do you just all of a sudden show up with 138,000 drop in the dead of night after you've said we're not going to count any more votes?
Right.
We're going to go to sleep. We're going to come back in the morning and start counting.
The poll watchers leave.
Well, but they said we're done. Everybody go home. We're done. And then all of a sudden at 4 a.m., and if you look at that chart, it literally goes straight up and over, right? At 4 a.m. And if you notice that Trump in his speech last night, when he did talk, he said, we don't want a bunch of ballots showing up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Guess what happened? At 4 o'clock in the morning, they showed up.
Exactly.
So,
well, let's be clear. We are for free. Like, this is not to be confused with not accepting the results of
right.
I want to be very clear about that. I mean, it's like people are trying to turn the tables on us, like, you're stomping and screaming. No, it's very clear and very. I think it's more statistically probable, if you investigate fraud and investigate all the things that mail-in ballot even exacerbated the situations for. Right. Oh yeah. Investigate those things and ascertain that, are these not dead people? Are these not, if you go through that process, we think there is a clear path to victory for Trump.
Right.
And I'm seeing tons of Republicans kind of go, "Oh, okay, it's okay. We're going to turn the other cheek and show you guys how we can be, cool with a Biden administration." I'm like, I'm sorry. We've been dealing with this year and a half campaign, looking at the Democrats put their most compromised and lackluster individuals forward to go up against who they're claiming is to be, a Hitler, an absolute, a moronic leader of the free world. And now in 24 hours, we're going to sit here and go, "Oh yeah, you're right." I mean, look, the writing was on the wall. We were the one. I mean, the fact that Savannah Guthrie this morning was like, wait, so they can still, even with, you mean Pennsylvania can still accept ballots?
Right. Yeah.
They aren't postmarked up through Friday. It's like, yeah, that's what we were saying to you guys.
Right.
We didn't think it was a good thing
to begin.
Right. Dylan says, listen, don't think that we were just sitting on our hands through this whole process. We have been, since June, July, aggressively looking at each of these secretaries of state.
Right.
And, what are the rules? And, and we won some battles, but we lost some battles. And so rules landed wherever they landed on November 3rd.
Right.
But we have a very low integrity election process. And, for all that the left whines about voter suppression, I'm sorry, handing out Sharpies so you can identify registered Republicans that are going to vote for Trump, invalidate their ballots, that is voter suppression.
Right.
Look at all the ways in which saying that Biden's up 10 points in the polls.
Right.
When we're at a 0.6% of a spread in some of the states, That was voter suppression.
Exactly. Yeah.
You're always doing what you're accusing the other side of, and it's uncomfortable. And we are not, you shared the Steve Deace thing with me this morning, or I saw it.
For anybody that's listening, go to Steve Deace. I don't know if it's stevedeace.com, DEACE, and check out. But check out he's a former pollster for Ted Cruz and for Mike Huckabee, and he knows polls and data better than anybody. And last night he said, when I went to bed last night, when we went off the air, we went over all the registered voters in Michigan and Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, and specifically Michigan we were focused on. He said, because it was he went to school there, so it's like my former state. And he said, statistically, as we went through and looked at all the registered voters, where the votes had come in, what the breakdowns were per county of the state or the counties that were still outstanding, Richard Barris at People's Pundit, they agreed it is statistically impossible for him to win. He had to win 79% of the remaining vote. Which, if you looked at all the breakdown, none of the counties were breaking that hard. Yet he comes back and all of a sudden he wins 86% of the rest of the vote. It's just one of those things where you have to scratch your head and say, something else was going on. How is that possible?
Well, that's why we posted this morning on our thing. We said, look, we agree that we're a divided country and it's almost down the middle. Okay. Yep. So you don't just find 100,000 ballots and have them completely skewed to one side. That is grounds for, I think one of the pundits was saying, look, that's prima facie evidence.
Sure.
That it's not evidence of a crime, but it's evidence of a need for an investigation to look further into what the source of that was.
Right.
Under the cover of night. And why Arizona, somebody else had a great point that says, look, Democrats or retirees and Latinos really make up the demographics of both Florida and Arizona. They're very similar demographics, and they've both been swing states.
Right.
How can you show an absolute inversion of what happened in Florida to what's happening in Arizona?
Yeah.
And so, and why would you claim that 9% in or 96% in when it's actually 80% in, and you have still Maricopa County, which hasn't been counted?
Right. And that's what Bannon and Richard Barris were talking about today on the War Room. Is in Nevada, he's based on the exit polls and everything that we know, he won 41% of Latinos in Nevada. Now think about it. Clark County is still in favor of Biden.
Right.
Clark County is heavily Latino. If 41% of Latinos are breaking for Donald Trump in Nevada, there is no way he can win Clark County. I mean, that means that every single white person had to go vote for Biden by 80%, right? Again, it's just one of those things where it's statistically impossible for it to happen, but it's happening. Right. So you just have to sit back and ask yourself and just use common sense, right? I mean, Wisconsin, the same thing. When Deace was going through on Monday and saying, "Hey, I looked at Target data or Target Smart's data. This is a Democrat data scientist firm. Wisconsin." For all mail-in ballots, all early voting through the weekend. So on Monday morning, he said, Hillary Clinton going into 2016, the Democrats had a 9.8% edge in all ballots that had been returned and votes. Trump won by 0.7. Going into this election, based on their data, Democrats had a 0.1% edge. And so now you're telling me that, and by the way, what Harlan Hill pointed out today too, going back to every presidential election since 2000, the most turnout the state of Wisconsin had since 2000 was almost 74%, like 73.9.
Right.
They got 89.25% this election. So 90, that's never happened in the history of America. I mean, a county of 4 people will have 100% turnout, right? A district. But you don't get a state with 4 million people or whatever it is and get 90% of the voting population to turn out. It is, again, it's just one of those things. Is it possible? Sure. Is it probable? Not a chance in hell.
Right.
So you get 89%.
The day, yeah.
Right. And they're saying that there was, and that's the thing that Barris was talking about as well that was confusing for him, is he said, we were never, usually going into every election, you're told what the outstanding absentee ballot count is. We sent out 100,000, we received back 80,000.
Right.
So those other 20,000 can trickle in, but they give you a number. He said in all the states and all the battleground states, we were never given a number. It was a range, 80 to 120,000. Well, it just happened to be 140,000. And then again, that 140,000 was 138, all went to Biden. Again, it's statistically impossible. If you're taking absentees from around a state that is 50-50, it's 50 to 49 as of right now, then that would tell you that all of those absentee ballots are going to come back 50 to 49 on average, because you're going to have some counties that are 70% Biden, but you're going to have some counties that are 70% Trump. So that's where these anomalies just do not make sense.
And to be clear, Richard Barris is a nonpartisan pollster, right?
Correct.
So and you know, he's just a pure data scientist trying to do the work of identifying this stuff. Well, so what's the legitimacy of the claim that more ballots were received than there are registered voters, and that can include same day? Has that been challenged or debunked? Because I've noticed that's circulating on Facebook with the disclaimer that it's a lie. So I can't find anybody who's debunked it.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, again, the registrations office is required to post what their total registration is on their website. So if you come in above that, then you can say, yes, okay, we had a lot of, same day registrations. Again, though, across the entire state, you had 100 or was it 60 something thousand just show up on the day of that weren't registered to vote in Wisconsin. Is it possible? Sure, it's possible, but is it probable? No, because if you just all of a sudden decided, you know what, I hate this other guy and I don't know who this other guy is, but I want to go vote, right? You most likely put in your registration 2 weeks ahead of time at least, right? Or I know a lot of them have cutoff dates of when you have to early register. Yeah. But I mean, you're telling me that 60,000 people in the state of Wisconsin all of a sudden decided this election was so important for them that they're going to go vote? I mean, it's again, and you have 90% turnout in your state. So, I mean, it doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't. And again, Michigan, I keep coming back to Michigan. It's been called by Fox News, it's been called by ABC or whatever. Newsmax has put it in the Biden camp. But if you go to the Michigan Board of Elections website, its last update was at 3:14. I know they got hit with a lawsuit. I know that a lawsuit came around 3:30 or 4 by the Trump campaign, but their website still shows, and I'll give you the number here. It still shows on their website that Donald Trump has a 52 to 46 lead, 2,010,000 votes versus 1,773,000. And that was as of 3:14 p.m. with 77 of 83 counties reporting. So you're telling me, and again, I did this math earlier, right? If you look at all the other states or all the other NPR and Fox News and New York Times, and you hover over Michigan, Biden has 2,699,000 votes versus Trump's is about 2,006,000. So you're saying then in those last 6 counties, over about 1.5 million votes came in and went 2 for 1 for Biden. He's not even winning the Oakland County and Wayne County by a 2-to-1 margin. He's at 62, 61. But he's not at 67, right? 68. Oh, they just updated their site. Hold on. So we're at 2,109,000 for Donald Trump now to 1,000,009. So he's still up 52 to 46.5, 47. Okay. They just updated as of 7:34. It just triggered.
Oh, as you've been talking.
Yeah. But that's what's so interesting is that, what about and they've got 70.
Nobody's going to vote for Biden, and yet they had the totals tabulated. They had a 6,000. They had a 6,000 swap. I mean, if those kinds of mistakes are being made, it's no wonder that the system is broken.
Right.
The system is broken on purpose for a lack of transparency, and so that these kinds of shenanigans can take place. And we should not allow for it.
No,
we should not allow for it.
And again, it just we were talking about this last night on our live stream, right? If you just sit down and think, or just take your scotch, right? Take a sip, sit down and start thinking for a second. Use critical thinking methods. So the state of Florida and what we all knew was definitely going to be the key battleground state, because if it fell for Biden or whoever it fell for early, that was a kind of a harbinger for, hey, the rest of the country may go that way.
Right.
So Florida can tabulate all of their votes and get them in by midnight.
Third biggest state.
But Georgia, where I am, right, North Carolina, Michigan, Ohio, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin all decide, you know what, 10:30 at night, hey guys, you guys have put in a long day. Won't you head home, right? We'll call it a night. Come back tomorrow morning. We'll start counting again. We have one election day, right? It's in the Constitution, right? It's set when we're going to have this day to vote.
Right. You
stay there and you count the votes. Now here in Georgia, give Brian Kemp a lot of shade on this, right? And throw it because he let them go home. He didn't say, no, dude, we're Georgia, right? We're at the finish line. Take the ball all the way across. He didn't do that. So North Carolina, they're not going to count their votes now until November 12th, right? But if you look at the states where we had the issues,
you have this in the balance.
Trump was up in North Carolina. He was up in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan. All 4 states he had a sizable lead in.
Yeah.
Then they shut it down, right? All blue state governors. Go home, everybody. We'll come back and tabulate in the morning. Up 4 o'clock in the morning. Look at all these dumps we got. I mean, like you said earlier, when I woke up this morning, I was confident. I was like, dude, they're such large numbers. They can't overcome this.
Right.
And then it's like, oh, you look at the screen, you're like, oh, wait, how's he down 100,000 now? Right. So again, just use common sense. How does that happen? If it was the other foot, put the shoe on the other foot. If this was Romney in 2012 and Clinton last year, and all of a sudden it's Georgia, Alabama, Texas, or whatever, and Hillary's leading, and you say, stop, shut it down, we'll go home, and yeah, you got a sizable lead, but yeah, we'll come back to counting in the morning, and then you show up the next day, and you're like, oh wait, you're in the hole now. Now you got to dig yourself out. It's again, you would be livid, and that's I think the anger that people have. Now, to your point, though, earlier about why, you're seeing some Republicans just be like, all right, well, whatever, we'll just take it. Because Republicans, for the most part, we have a tendency to believe that morals and just common sense will prevail.
Right.
We're fighting a different enemy now. In the 1980s, right, when Tip O'Neill and Reagan could sit down, they could have a discussion, right? Evan Bayh, right, former senator from Indiana. I used to love when he was on Fox, because I could be like, look, I would probably vote for you if my Republican candidate sucked, right? But you could listen to him, and I could say, hey, I can come to terms with him. Right. These Democrats, you can't come to terms with. Right. They want to ruin you. I mean, when you have the Tlaibs and the AOCs and them out there basically saying, burn it down, you don't give us what we want, they're not going to be nice. And conservatives always have a tendency to just say, we got to play nice. At some point, you got to go into the temple and start flipping tables and say to everybody, look, we're going to fight with your rules on our turf. So now let's take it to it. And we just don't have that. We don't have the ball. And that's why I like the Steve Deace segment this morning, because you can tell he's a Christian. You listen to his show as the day is long. He is pissed because he knows we don't have the fight in us. And so, and Trump is a different Republican. He's a different conservative.
Trump's got to do it all on his own.
Right. So Trump's going to have to fight it on his own.
And how do we have so many Republican winners and not Trump in all these seats? And the fact that they're gonna require him to fight his own battles with these secretaries of state. Right. And they're shoving it down our throats. First of all, they pushed a candidate on us that nobody wanted. Right. On their side. Then they pushed polls that were total push polls. Oh, you got to realize that they weren't designed to suppress the Republican vote. They were designed to create the simulacrum of a blue wave, so that no matter what, if Trump swept in an absolutely decisive fashion, which there's nothing to suggest that he didn't do that. He definitely campaigned strategically.
And to your point, why haven't you seen any Democrat come out knowing that they were supposedly up 6 points in Ohio and he loses by 7? Biden does, right? That's a 13-point swing. Why aren't you seeing any Democrats going, hey, whoa, we were up by 6 going into that day. Everybody was telling us we were up 6, right? We're fighting over the states that we were down in, right? Unless you listen to Trafalgar, right? We were down in, but we were ahead when the voting stopped. Right. So again, it's like Lenin said, it was Lenin or Stalin, right? That said, it doesn't matter who votes, it matters who counts the votes. Right. And that's 100% correct. And we've allowed ourselves to fall into that. Then you have the people like you were talking about earlier with Marco Rubio, right? Saying that Trump shouldn't have come out and given that speech. And it's kind of, maybe he's given a concession, or not a concession, a celebratory speech or whatever. Right. And yeah, I mean,
they show their colors,
right? I mean, Rubio's just trying to save face, knowing he's the snake, right? He's in the den of vipers, so he knows he's about to be coddled and stuff like that because it's going to be the Biden and the Great Reset regime coming in, and the Trumps and them get destroyed, right? The people that voted for Trump, they're coming after you, right? It's not going to let up. I mean, you had the president's Twitter account suspended last night by Twitter, right? I mean, he's the leader of the free world speaking out against what he's saying is a coup. I would say is a coup, right? That's taking place, right? And you silence him. What is that? That's a coup, right? They're shutting down dissent. They're shutting down any dissension whatsoever. And you can't have that in a free and fair republic. And like General McInerney said the other night when he was describing the hammer, which Buzzy here just chimed in or whatever about what's going on here, about that reminds him of the video that I did on the hammer. Yeah. He stated this will be the last free and fair election if Biden wins, because they're doing away with the Electoral College. And that's going to be their plan. And they're going to pack the courts and they're going to do it.
Already speaking to that today.
Yeah.
Kind of talking about the popular vote.
Right.
The more they have in the popular vote.
Right.
That expansive, that delta is expanding. It's like they're setting it all up.
Yeah.
Even if we prevail in the Electoral College, we still, by the fact that the media threw shade on this in the way that they did, you're setting it up for a major disappointment.
Right.
If I don't ever give the kid the candy, right?
Right.
And then, they say, oh, I didn't get the candy, blah, blah. But if I give the kid the candy and then I take it away, they're incensed.
Of course.
Yeah. And we know how liberals behave when they lose. They never really conceded the last.
No, they're still
fighting it all the way through, the Electoral College and then the Russian collusion narrative and then the impeachment. It's like it's a Machiavellian mindset in which the end justifies the means.
Right.
They don't care. They don't, for all they talk about Jesus, you think of nothing else about Jesus. It's the golden rule. Treat neighbor as you would have them treat you.
Right.
Every single one of these cases of detection of voter fraud, we have to identify, dude, I would argue on your behalf to get that sorted out as well. I would say to you, Mr. Liberal, I would say to you, okay, well, we just found this 100,000 ballots and it doesn't, it's from places and the voting does not reflect the demography or the registration patterns of said voters.
Right.
I would want to dive into it with you because I want to know that I won freely and fairly.
Absolutely.
We all played Monopoly with somebody who, as the banker, is doing something on the side.
Right.
It's like, dude, flat out cheating is not going to create.
Well, they're
not going to be able to unify this country.
No.
If the win came as a result of Secretary of State, county elector offices and the cover of the media. That's you're not going to get a unified country. There's no way.
Right. And like Chloe says here that, in her comment, the system is broken on purpose. And she's right. Right. Yeah. It got broken on purpose and they've manipulated their voters. Right. And brainwashed enough with the media, enough of the population to think that Orange Man bad is going to wreck the entire planet. And look, I have friends of mine that I talk to every day around the world, Morocco, England, London. We had a guy, one of my friends was on last night watching us, right? From London, Costa Rica, Colombia, Peru, Australia. They sit there and look at us that we're looking up to you guys and we're seeing you guys dissolve. I'm like, exactly.
Yes.
Right. And if you go through Morocco, go through Colombia, right? They've lived through
Nigeria.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Ghana. People want us to keep our freedom and our democracy, and they know that we capitulate, it's over.
It's over.
If we capitulate in a free and fair election, I'm fine with it, and I'll have to make my decision. I'll fight like hell against it, but I'll make my decision. But we're certainly not going to capitulate, in anticipation of all this shade being thrown. There's just
well, I mean, it's like right. So it's like going back to 2016, right? Trump won that. He surprised everybody, right? He won that election because he appealed to the common man, right? The forgotten man, and he won. I don't remember them talking about at all some contested state that came down that shut down their polling or shut down their vote count at 9:30 at night and then just went home. And then, but if they had complained about it and something like that had happened, they have an absolute right to do that. I would be pissed off as well, because we are now.
Yeah.
So they lost a fair election in 2016. And according to McInerney, they actually tried to cheat. Obama tried to use the hammer in Florida and it didn't take off for whatever reason, didn't connect to the system. So they couldn't shift those 3% of the votes over.
Yeah.
But if you look at they just said, all right, we just disagree with the election. He's not our president. And they fought him every step of the way. The coup started from day one.
Right.
And, you and I have done the videos on, the plot against the president and everything else, if nobody's seen it. But yeah, so you're just watching all of this stuff come in, and it makes no sense that you have a dump at 4 o'clock in the morning of 138,000 votes, of which 100% of them go to the candidate that you want to win, right? And then in Philadelphia, there was a 23,217 or 2,277 all went to Biden in Philadelphia, and then another district had of 5,200 or something votes, 4,000 went to Biden. I can kind of live with that, right? At least he got 1,000, right, or 1,200. But when 128 all go to one, right? When 23 all go to one, it's ridiculous. And again, and the other thing I keep coming to on Wisconsin, to have 89% of your electorate show up to vote it's beautiful. I mean, you're talking Maduro and Saddam Hussein type votes, right? Where a gun comes to your head and says, if you don't go vote, you're going to die, right? So, okay, well, let me get to the vote and let me get to the polls and vote. And they win with 90% of the vote. So, but that's where we're coming. We're a banana republic. We're going to become a banana republic. So
what are the ways? I mean, I'm looking at Michigan and Wisconsin as undecided. I don't care who. Yeah. We have shenanigans there to look into.
Right.
Of a lack of transparency in terms of poll watching.
Yeah.
In the name of COVID, poll watchers couldn't come in. I'm sorry.
Right. But yet the CDC sent out a message yesterday saying, if you have COVID-19, it's okay to go vote. It's like, wait a minute. We can't go to church or school, but because election is such an absolute right, it's okay to go to the polls with COVID-19. Not it's okay just to go to the polls. It's if you have COVID-19, it's okay to go to the polls.
Right. Yeah.
We live in an alternate universe. Anyway, I'm sorry I interrupted you. Go ahead.
No, I was. That's what I'm saying. We got to look at Michigan, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
They got to call. Georgia.
Right.
Brendan Straka just tweeted, "Explain to me, like I'm a 6-year-old, why they've called the Virginia race."
Right.
We're looking at all of these factors and we're going, well, we've been clobbered with Orange Man bad. And now we're being clobbered with Orange Man lost. Orange Man lost.
Right.
Like, show me the numbers.
Right. Accept the results and move on.
He just lost. And it's just unconscionable. We can't stand for this to happen. So Nevada, Arizona goes. I mean, Arizona should have been, and I know there are some conspiracy theories around, Arizona
with the Sharpies and
what, not only just the Sharpies, but even, what happened with Kristen Sinema during the State of the Union address,
right,
to a MAGA hat. There are things that have been taking place in Arizona that would lead you to wonder, why is it not reflective of that electorate?
Right.
So hopefully we dive into that. Nevada, look, we could write off Nevada, but like you said, there's discrepancies in Nevada. In Nevada, is Nevada truly not going to go for? For Trump? This party is not over.
Yeah, I mean, again, Clark County is showing 73% on NPR's site as of right now. I mean, I refreshed them all before we came on. So if he's down 8,000 and there's only 73% in, and he's winning 41% of the Latino vote across Nevada.
Right.
How is Nevada not in play? Because that's what Steve Deace said earlier tonight, or it wasn't Steve Deace. It was actually it may have been Deace. Deace or Barris at People's Pundit said he only has to take 45% of the vote in Clark County, and he will swing the vote.
Right.
So he can win Clark County. So Nevada's, at least according to him, is definitely still in play. Right. And a lot of the vote still needs to come in dominant red areas, 77% for Trump, 76% for Trump, 75, 80, 78, 84. I mean, those are 76% in. So if you look at that, Nevada could be in play. So but he can lose Nevada if he gets Arizona, which, again, that data firm, I had it up here earlier. The data firm in Phoenix said they predict that Trump will win Arizona now by 32 to 40,000 votes, because all he has to do is win Maricopa, or the outstanding votes, which I think he said was 650,000 or something like that. Yeah. He only has to win it with 58%. And so far he won day of voting 65% based on all exit polls. So if he wins Arizona and if he wins Arizona and is able to hold Pennsylvania, which again, I've heard other statisticians talk that it is statistically impossible based on what we know and what Pennsylvania reported last night as to how many votes were still left outstanding. It's statistically impossible for them to get there. Now, what they're trying to do, according to Barris, is if they get inside of 250,000 votes, they can demand a recount. And so they just want to tie it up and confuse the system. But if he does end up picking up Arizona and holds Pennsylvania, he's got 279 electoral votes, so he's the president again. Yeah. So it's not over. And that's what pisses off the Bannons of the world and the Steve Deaces of the world, of going, guys, just because the media is telling you this state went here, this state went there, whatever, and Biden's and they're essentially, coronating Biden. Yeah. That's so that now you're like, okay, well, shoot, I'm depressed. Let me go off and cry have my tears or whatever and cry in my beer. But it's not over yet. And I mean, they're going to contest Pennsylvania. They've already sent Giuliani there. I saw a thing earlier with Eric Trump as well. So they're going to battle big time in Pennsylvania, because they know they have to hold that one. And so, because they can, even if they lose Arizona, but somehow miraculously pick up Nevada, it's only 8,000 votes down, they win, right? So they can flip flop, because he'll have the cushion. So if you take Arizona out of the equation and give that to Biden, but put Nevada back in, he's at 274. And so
these guys are chatting in. Yeah, Bernardo, 100. Yeah, we were talking about the 100 K ballots, and it's unreasonable to think this thing is over. But the problem is, if you do, you're going to create unrest if you, like you said, if you coronate Biden now and give him all this gusto, then it's going to feel like it was something taken away when it was never his to begin with. Right. So then you're going to create chaos in the street, and you're going to move into a kind of civil war dimension, which is going to favor more lockdowns, and less freedoms and other means of achieving.
Yeah, we're definitely headed there.
Well, yeah, and that's what Dace was saying so passionately, and I don't think it was an easy thing to stomach. I mean, I think I was just finally trying to taper into calm.
Right.
I listened to that 11-minute segment on Glenn Beck.
Yeah, we'll post it on we'll send it out or whatever on our Twitter feed and Facebook post.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, we have to keep our eyes on the prize. We have to stay with the president as he looks, because he's not going to get any help from Republicans.
None.
So look, we need to support, and we just need to keep telling people, look, it's not over till the fat lady sings, and we'll totally accept the results of the election, but let's know what those results are. And know where they were fiddled with.
And again, I would encourage our listeners as well to look into the Transition Integrity Project. Glenn Beck covered this about 3 weeks ago, or maybe a month ago. Yeah. The George Soros and the Democrats sat down and they war gamed 4 scenarios of the outcome of the election. We are living right now scenario 2. Scenario 3 was that Trump actually, I guess we're kind of in a combination of 2 and 3. The media is telling us we're in 2, right? Trump's telling us we're in the scenario 3. Scenario 3 was where Trump barely wins, but as they recount the votes, it's looking like, yes, he is going to win. And that's when the liberals and the Democrats send out their brown shirts to go burn everything down and siege the White House and then they put their list of demands out.
And they're ready. I mean, we've seen they with Sunrise and
Sunrise Movement.
All these guys are ready. They're going to storm. They said they planned it for the 5th.
Right.
So let's see what happens tomorrow.
Right.
And
V for Vendetta.
And these guys on the left are telling us, oh, he put this fence up. Like, that's so embarrassing. He put this fence up around the White House. What a coward.
Right.
Like, are you not paying attention? You don't exactly have a law-abiding set of people who they are looking to stoke this fire to the end.
Right. Yeah. But that's the thing. I mean, and you have the scenario 2 was Biden barely winning. And as the votes keep coming in and the recounts happen, Trump starts to realize, okay, yeah, it's insurmountable. I'm not going to be able to pick up. And scenario 3, I believe it was Trump. It came down to Michigan. I think I wrote all the notes down. I think it came down to Michigan or something, and Whitmer would not send the electorates. Yeah, the Democrat or the Republican electorate, she wouldn't send. So it became a thing where, I thought I had my notes right here, where she wasn't going to send. So you can't claim victory, right? Because she sends the wrong party's electorates down there. So, but scenario 2 was, Trump just finally says, okay, yeah, I'm gonna be an adult. I'm not gonna be able to get the vote, so I'll just walk away and let you guys have it and have a peaceful transition. So,
yeah, I mean, we got Ohio, we got Florida. I have, then we also have the extra possibility, which is we have the possibility,
right?
269 each, right?
Yeah. There's a small possibility of that.
And if that happens, I mean, God, we'll talk about breaking records. I think we're going to get Price to jump on. For some final thoughts here. But if we go 269 and 269, then good old Pelosi.
Oh, jeez, man.
Does it get weirder or what? But it's highly probable. I mean, I was just throwing my own to get to 269 each.
Yeah.
Kind of just throwing my own. Okay, so North Carolina goes for Trump, Georgia goes for Trump, Florida goes for Trump, obviously, Iowa, Texas, and then Nevada, Pennsylvania, if they catch up and with all the shenanigans in Pennsylvania, and they get to do it through the end of Friday.
Right.
Anybody, I mean, they probably can't print these damn ballots fast enough.
Right, exactly.
Get them in
at
the end of Friday. And so if they're in by the end of Friday, they don't have to find out when they were postmarked.
Right.
It's not like, oh, they had to be out the door by Tuesday. They literally could be getting printed right now or even tomorrow.
Right.
And they're filled in on Friday with a scratchy signature that nobody can figure out what it is. And
what do you
269, 269.
Yeah. Yeah. What I lost my train of thought.
Well, we need to figure out how we are going to engender, staying calm, but being clear about, non-conciliatory, non-concessional tones.
Right.
We need to say, not over till the fat lady sings.
Yep.
We do believe in a free and fair election. We already argued about, the atrocities of Trump and the likely capitulation to the New World Order of Biden. Let's leave the policies off the table and let's focus on the process.
Right.
Look at the places where the process needs to be uncovered. And if there needs to be a manual recount in some states, let's do that. And what should those processes be? Because those processes should have people from both sides, not 50 feet away, but actually over the shoulder.
Right.
And the things, and let's figure out what this is. And obviously, we're not going to come up with a new electoral process right now, but this is why we've been saying for months that the mail-in ballot scheme was ripe with fraud. And so let's figure out how best to certify the votes that came in through that very terrible scheme, and at least try to figure out how to make this slightly fair. And then we will accept the results.
Right.
Absolutely accept the results.
Yeah.
But don't do this stopping of counting and calling it here and doing this there. I mean, they really cannot shove this president down our throats. We will not have it, and we will have it'll be more than TDS that we have. We move into that scenario, right?
Right. And so, do we then take their game to them? Right. We don't have the media. Right. But, we have digital warriors. But again, we're going to be silenced. Right. Our Twitter feeds are going to be canceled. This YouTube, channel may be canceled as well. But that's what we're up against. Right. You can't have dissent in a Bolshevik revolution, right? You have to go along with the party that's in control, or you are put down in silence. So how much, and this again comes back to how much are Republicans willing to fight? We just endured 4 years of literal hell, right? Or figurative hell from the left. Every day you woke up, it was some new, just salacious accusation against a president. He's a Russian stooge. He's a Russian agent. He's this, that, and the other. And we just kind of bit our lip and said, all right, well, whatever, right? It's like, he's your president as well. That was kind of our comeback. So, do we now just say, just take the same approach, or do we just be like, okay, fine, we live with Biden for 4 years and hope, but it's not going to, again, we're not going to have an election in 4 years. Steve Deace has even talked about that, right? Is that your election in 4 years isn't going to happen anyway remotely close to what you think it has normally been, the way you've normally experienced it. So get over that. You just elected, and not a personal dictator, but you just elected a dictator, and that your whole system of how you've lived your life is over. And so,
you elected an idea that's a very bad idea.
Correct. Yeah.
What's up, Price?
Well, hey, thank you for having me on. I don't know if you guys have talked about this yet, but one thing that I wanted to bring up in particular is the discrepancy in the numbers between the Secretary of State's office in Michigan and the numbers that are coming out in the media. Because I don't know if Michigan just has an incredibly poor Secretary of State's office that isn't updating these numbers in time. According to their website, they're updating them in real time. But I mean, if you look at the numbers that are currently going out, and I said, maybe this is just all the Secretary of State's offices across the board. So I went over to Virginia, because I know we were having Virginia. We were talking about Virginia last night as being a state that we didn't really understand the numbers in. But no, the numbers there are up to date. You can go through them. You can go through county to county. Currently, on the Secretary of State's website in the state of Michigan, it has Donald Trump with 2,109,229 votes. It has Joe Biden with 1,893,486 votes. So,
and yet Michigan is called for Biden.
Michigan is called for Biden, and when you look at the numbers on the New York Times website, so Joe Biden has 2.7 million, and Trump has 2.63 million. 2.6 million. So, I mean, there's some sort of discrepancy in the numbers, whether there's a latency in the Secretary of State's office, or whether they don't, if these are just estimates that they're estimating vote counts, and creating a false narrative. I don't really know. And I wanted to ask you guys, because I know we were talking about it earlier.
Yeah, we started off and touched on it because my system actually updated. It hadn't updated since 3/14 on the website, and it just updated at 7/34. So while I was saying that Trump was at 2,000,010 at that point, and Biden was at like 1,799,000, it then updated. So, but no, the official tally for vote count is the Secretary of State office, not New York Times, not NPR. So how are they getting numbers that are so much larger than what because Secretary of State has to approve that number, update it to their system, and then it is allowed out to the media. So why is the media showing?
Correct. And that's after adjudicated ballots have been gone.
Correct. Exactly.
So I don't know. What I'm wondering is my screen share working? Can you guys see my my screen with the Secretary of State's website on it right here? Yeah. And like I said, I just wanted to make sure to put this up so I'm not feeding you or selling you a false bill of goods. I mean, these are the numbers that we're seeing. Yeah. I mean, and like you said, Derek, I mean, the numbers that are coming out from these, I've heard it on CNN. I've been watching CNN all day because I wanted to hear their perspective on all this. I try to punish myself every now and then.
Well, we see both. We like to see both sides. They don't see one side. We have to hear what narrative they're being fed.
Right. But to your guys' point, I mean, Rick Santorum made a pretty good point. He was talking with Van Jones and Wolf Blitzer and a panel of other columnists and journalists on CNN. And he said the Republican Party isn't the party that business owners in downtown New York are scared of if Donald Trump loses.
Correct.
Or pardon me, if Donald Trump wins.
Right.
I mean, you're looking at it. I mean, if you saw it in San Diego, you saw it in New York City, Los Angeles. I mean, Gavin Newsom in California came up and said, we're prepared for any election violence. I mean, if you're preparing for election violence, there's one group that you're preparing for. Right. Yeah. And that's Antifa, jackbooted thugs coming into your downtown and your main street and destroying property. I mean, that's what you're getting.
Yep.
So I don't know. I mean, I think that
there's no violence.
No.
No violence. No threat of violence at all.
Slow walk.
Yeah.
Are we trying to slow walk towards the violence?
But that's the thing, so if it does come out that Biden wins, do you honestly believe the riots and protests stop? I mean, COVID-19 dropped off the face of the earth, right? We didn't hear a word about it today, right? I didn't see a case count from anybody or whatever, though.
Biden. Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, and we were warned about that, right? On November 4th, the virus will just mysteriously disappear. So if they get the result that they want.
And I was going to tell you this. So I don't know how much longer you want to stay on the stream, Derek, but I didn't realize this. It completely blanked my mind. Phoenix, which is Maricopa County, is on Mountain Time.
Right.
So in about little over 45 minutes, that's when they're going to be dropping that round.
Oh,
okay.
For all of Maricopa County.
And did you see the Data Orbital update?
No, I didn't.
Data Orbital is a Phoenix-based data science firm.
Okay, is that the one that the Daily Wire reported on? I read that.
Yes.
Report.
Yeah. So just updated their site 27 minutes ago, and they have a ballot result thread. Pima County, out of 5,614 ballots, it went 50.8 to Biden and 47.3 to Trump. Overall, he says, and this is, again, a Phoenix-based firm, so they know Arizona backwards and forward, said overall this is a strong county for Biden, so that's a good sign for Trump that he only got 50.8. 42 minutes ago, he had said that as we wait for the first 9 p.m. Eastern update, which what time is it right now? Yeah, 8:15, so you're right. With the 70,000 expected drop, of the remaining 414,000 ballots in Maricopa, Republicans have an advantage of 17.6. So the strong election day vote had an R plus 20% edge. So he's saying, and he sent another tweet on the back of Molly Hemingway's, and he said, a real question is, when real Donald Trump wins tonight's update by more than 60%, will Fox News finally recant their premature call?
Right.
So he's just calling them out straight up, saying, dude, you guys were wrong to begin with.
Right.
Well, and speaking of Fox, I mean, it seems I was watching Fox when they called Michigan. I mean, it seemed incredibly premature.
Yeah.
To call Michigan.
Well, we talked, and so yeah, you weren't part of you didn't come in early.
I apologize. I apologize for catching me up on stuff you already talked about.
Yeah, so we chatted about that as well when we were going over those Michigan numbers, because again, we're talking about the coup, right, and what we're living through, and the media is complicit in that, and that includes Fox News. And everyone wants to say, oh, if you read Twitter or social media today, and someone was saying, dude, if Fox News is calling Michigan, you guys need to give it up, right? Like, so now Fox News is the gospel, right? So they hate them before and don't take anything they say as gospel. Now it's like, dude, Fox News is even saying it. Like, you have to agree with it. And once you know who the enemy is, right, then you can plan your plan of attack. That's when you put your strategy together. Right. And what conservatives have to realize is that Fox News, for the longest time, and Mike and I've talked about this plenty of times, I've tuned, other than Tucker Carlson and to some degree Laura Ingraham, I've tuned them out. Yep. Right. If Tucker Carlson and Kevin Corke, right, could leave and go start their own network, I'd follow them to the ends of the earth.
Absolutely. One of the guys that I met during the campaign, Mike Cargile, up in LA, like on Ontario area, East LA. He, first of all, he got trounced by Norma Torres, but he was a really cool guy to meet. And his main platform, I met him up in Burbank at the 11 a.m. The Answer radio interview, and his main platform was this idea that the secretaries of state, if you really look at the Constitution, they have to run a free and fair election.
Correct.
And so, just to look ahead, if we get to this place where either through the dueling 269s or whatever other shenanigans end us up, I think there could be a case there that says, look, even though we delegate the responsibility of running an election and sending those electors from the state under the Secretary of State and the governor, if we can't, and perhaps the Supreme Court would identify that it wasn't run in a way that was free and fair,
right?
Then we'd be into a whole new territory, and that's not conceding,
right?
That's simply looking at a process that we knew was flawed, and we got to this place, and now it's time to say, hey, let's explore all options. And it was astute of him. He carried the Constitution, and he would pull it right out, and that was his main thing. He said, look, free and fair elections. It's delegated, but it's not expropriated.
Yeah. Well, another interesting update in Michigan too is the Senate race there between Gary Peters and John James.
Yeah.
Gary Peters, the Democratic incumbent, has pulled slightly ahead in vote count.
Jeez.
Yeah. To
is this part of that Antrim County flip?
Gary Peters currently has 2,680,766 votes, and John James has 2,621,002 votes. So it's within the margin of error. So if Trump calls a recount in Michigan, it's likely that some of those ballots that they find will be working towards John James too. So, if they do have a recount, they do find fraud, and they find that the Democrats are playing tricks in the state. Because most of these ballots, you're going down ticket. So if you're voting for Trump, you're also voting for John James, versus if you're voting for Biden, I'm sure, or if there's any kind of trickery, those ballots are going to have Democratic down ticket or Democrat votes down ticket. So it should be interesting to see what happens there.
Why do I feel like we as conservatives would be able to do the job of an FBI investigator in a nonpartisan format? And we would be able to do the job of somebody who works in the registrar of voters office or the county elected officials. And we would be able to dispatch our duties in ways that were fair and by the book. And yet we're seeing everything from Strzok down to these election officials that are kicking people out of their poll watching duties.
Right.
Why are we seeing, because I don't know what the makeup is of all elector officials, but I would imagine it's like 4-1 leaning left, right? 4-1 Democrat.
Yeah.
That take these kinds of roles. So, and that's not to say that Republicans don't want to get involved in those. We definitely have Republican poll watchers and whatnot.
Right.
But their inability to dispatch the duty, we really need fail safes away.
Well,
I was thinking a blockchain system where you couldn't actually see the vote. The vote has to checksum itself, but it amalgamates and it knows that I have one person, one vote. And there'd be no way for me to uncover what the actual vote was. It would just be a string of numbers and letters, but it would amount to a candidate, the one or other choice or a multiple choice.
Right.
We have to have a system that gets to that, but what will not allow is fraud.
Yeah.
Well, I got to tell you too. Just looking across the board especially if you go over to the House race map, you're seeing the only races they haven't called in 9 out of 10 cases are ones where Republicans are winning.
Yeah.
Just look at it. You can go and look at the map. The Jeff Van Drew race has been sitting at 75% of votes counted since we first got on the stream yesterday.
Right. Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't take this long to count this many ballots. They're just not releasing them. And it goes to the same in Pennsylvania. It goes to the same with these seats in Iowa. If you want to go on the New York Times website, just circle your map, your little mouse around the map to all the areas that aren't colored in yet. And 9 times out of 10, it'll be a Republican beating a Democrat that they haven't called yet. They're close races. I'll give you that. But some of these races have 95 or 96% of the vote in.
Yeah.
And they still haven't called them.
And what you would think, I was making this point earlier to someone else, is that step back for a second. Joe Biden got almost 73 million votes, right? It's like 72 million 5 or something was the last number I saw. So based on the way that they look at all previous presidential elections and compare that to the electorate, the number of registered voters or whatever as the electorate, and then win totals, and they're able to show enthusiasm and basically who was more popular between JFK and Abraham Lincoln, right? Of just showing popularity. This vote shows that Joe Biden is more liked and has a higher favorable rating than FDR did in 1944, than JFK did, and Barack Obama in 2008. There is not a chance in hell that is true.
Yeah.
But that's what the numbers tell you. And again, he can't, right. And yet he can't draw 17 people to a campaign rally. Right. And yet 72.5, and again, I'm not saying that there weren't 72.5 million ballots put in, right? Mm-hmm. But 72.5 million people voted in a historic election, I guess, right? Just because they hated the other guy. Mm-hmm. And a guy in Michigan today called into forget whose show it was I was listening to, Howie Carr, I think, on Newsmax.
Yeah.
And he said, I am so pissed. He's like, I'm in Michigan. He's like, I'm in central Michigan. I don't know a person. And he wouldn't say what he was in a union. He wouldn't say which one, but he's like, I don't know a person who was voting for Biden. And he goes, I guarantee you, if we had to do a revote today with voter ID, Trump would win by 15 points. It would not be close.
Mhm.
And so, I mean, he kind of alluded to, I know other people who don't know anybody that's voting for Biden, or if they do, it's, yeah, somebody I drink with at the bar or whatever. But it wasn't, we're like, oh yeah. Because that's the thing that Steve Deace was asking a couple weeks ago. He's like, you're looking at these poll numbers. Ask yourself, how many people do you know that voted for Trump in 2016 that's not voting for him now?
Right.
Versus how many people do you know that voted for him in 2016 who aren't voting for him now?
Right.
I personally don't know any. And all the three of them on that show said, I don't.
I've seen stories that tell that story, but
right.
It's actors.
Exactly. Right.
I have family from Texas to Virginia to Pennsylvania, and they all voted for Biden. But
how do they vote in 2016?
They all voted for Biden, or they all voted for Hillary.
Exactly. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No. So,
but
I mean, they weren't changing hearts and minds. I don't know a single Trump supporter who broke ranks.
I don't either.
Yeah. Even people I know who don't like Trump,
but
still voted for Trump.
But yet somehow Trump came up with over 8 million more voters this time.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, if I was doing the numbers last night, and yes, the voter turnout is up. I mean, if you look at Pennsylvania, for instance, I mean, Trump and Biden have both received sizably more people voting for them in this election than they did in 2016. And Hillary in 2016, Trump in 2016. So, I mean, both those people didn't even eclipse 3 million.
Yeah.
In the vote count.
Right.
So, I mean, you are seeing increased voter turnout.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't know. I mean, what are your guys' thoughts? I might have missed this too. I want to hear what you think, Derek, about the developments coming out of Georgia.
They're worrisome.
They are. Yeah, no, they are.
Yeah. I mean, it's like we talked about last night, right? It's like I would, wish to deliver Georgia last night, but they brought the National Guard in late this afternoon to watch over down at State Farm. Because again, it's just ironic that a pipe burst yesterday morning as they're about to sit down and start counting the absentee ballots in the entire country, right? In the place where the Georgia, and a buddy of mine brought up today, we were chatting and he said, you know what, I smelt a rat when Barack Obama came to Atlanta on Sunday and sat down with the mayor of Atlanta. He's like, something right there told me
really
something's going on. Yeah. He flew in and met with Mayor Bottoms.
No.
He's like, right then, he's like, I knew something wasn't right. So I still think.
How can we have October 5th ballots go out?
Right.
All this time they could have counted everything that came in through the mail.
Right.
Validated, and it's like, they just started counting the Pennsylvania ballots.
Well, like I said, unfortunately with Pennsylvania, that was a bipartisan disaster. Debacle, if you want to call it, because the Republican-led legislature and the Democratic governor couldn't agree on terms for opening absentee ballots, regional ballots, and all those ballots before Election Day.
Right.
That was the issue, which is why we're stuck with the glut of ballots that we currently have.
Yeah.
So it was bipartisan mismanagement that allowed us to get to the position that we're in today.
Well, Florida counted them as they can.
Right. And again, I mean, you have to look at the system, right? As Chloe here, has talked about earlier tonight on the chat, right? The system is broken on purpose, right? It's broken to cause chaos. It's broken to keep the media where you have to go to them for information, right? And I mean, the happiest people I know are those people who have just completely turned off the TV, right? They don't watch media, right? And they're ecstatic, right? They live a much happier life because it's doing is keeping us divided. I was in an Uber out in LA, I think probably 3 years ago, and something had just happened nationwide where it was black and white, right? Blacks, the media narrative is, we're all white people are racist and we're a racist country. And we were driving and he was a black gentleman from somewhere in Africa. But he went to Berkeley. I mean, he was well educated and well spoken. We were sitting there talking. And he goes, right now the media is telling me I'm supposed to hate you, and it's telling you you're supposed to hate me. And yet here we are having a normal conversation right? There's no animosity. And he's like, but driving around LA, I can always, he's like, I don't watch the media. I listen to NPR radio and that's about it. Don't turn on the TV. And he said,
bad media.
Yeah, it's true. But he said, I can always tell when something has happened in the country that has people at odds, is I can feel the energy just by looking at people on the street and seeing how they're carrying themselves. Are they saying hi to anybody? Do they have a smile on their face or whatever? When they ride in my car, they shut down, right? He's like, I can always tell. And sure enough, right? It's like, I just learned that some event, it wasn't Ferguson, but it was, some event had just happened. I was just like, wow, it's eye-opening because you see it the way I do.
Yeah.
And so,
all right, guys, let's wait for that drop and let's get our cadence rolling.
Okay.
I think we're gonna be. So we're gonna post the Steve Dace interview from this morning with Glenn Beck. We'll post a couple of the other things you mentioned, Derek.
Yeah, we can post the results of the Michigan website. They just updated it again with 79 of 83 voting. Trump still holds a 222,000 point lead or vote lead, but again, but the rest are going to be for Biden. So because right now for the rest, he only gets, according to the current in New York Times and NPR site, he's only going to get 448,000 roughly of the next he's going to get 800,000 the next 1.3 million. So, because Biden's at 1,930,000 right now on their updated site as of 10 minutes ago.
I mean, if you're just going to tell us who wins which state, then why do we even need an election?
Yeah, you don't. And that's what it's going to come to. It's just going to be, hey, you're going to go out and vote today, and here's who you're going to vote for. And if you don't vote for him, we're going to give you a Sharpie. so your vote doesn't count. Well, do you guys want to come back on then at 9?
We may. We'll start doing these reminders ahead of time so people will have at least a chance to pop on. But everybody, thanks for joining us. Definitely share. Do not give up yet. Calmly, but not conventional.
Because keep in mind, if we win Arizona, everybody, if the Republicans, if you are listening to the show and you're Republican, or even if you're Biden, you think you're hoping to hold on to victory. If Trump swings Arizona, which again, this data polling firm in Phoenix is saying that to their numbers, it's pretty much a certainty, but they obviously could be wrong because last night was a certainty, right? That he can lose Michigan and Wisconsin as long as he holds on Pennsylvania. So right now, the key is Pennsylvania and Arizona. If those stay in Trump's camp, he wins re-election.
And if we lose Georgia, just call it.
Oh, it's over.
Just go to sleep. Go to sleep. Yeah. Don't even worry about it. Have a drink.
Yeah. Well, if you lose Georgia,
stiff scotch.
All right.
Yeah, exactly.
No. If you lose Georgia, but he gets Nevada, now we're at the 269.
That's the one. That was my scenario.
And so, but I don't think he's going to lose Georgia. I think there's going to be a huge battle that goes on here. And again, I know there's shenanigans going on because like we were talking about last night with, 99, 100% reporting, all of a sudden there was, here comes 60,000 votes and they all seem to be for Biden. So same as you were seeing in Virginia, as we were talking about. So,
correct.
So, yeah. Well, thanks everyone for watching and,
peace, everybody. Peace on earth.
We'll let you guys know. Go to our website, americasnewclothes.com. We're on Instagram and Twitter at America's New C. Facebook is americasnewclothes.com.
Right on.
And if you like any of our content, please share it.
Yeah, please share and like our page. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.